Welcome geniuses, I'm Genie, your best buddy for A-levels. In this channel, we'll bring you to explore the secret formula behind success.
This is a video to solve question from topic 14, homeostasis, from A2, where I'm going to focus on the kidney, where we know that kidney is actually involved in osmoregulation, where it's defined as regulation of water potential in the body fluid, and another role will be excretion, where we're going to look at how kidney is involved in removal of metabolic waste. So in this question, they are focusing on the process of removal of nitrogenous waste in the blood, where it involves the process of ultrafiltration, which takes place at the glomerulus. So we're going to see how ultrafiltration takes place. So first thing, let's identify what are the requirements for ultrafiltration. So for ultrafiltration to take place, we know that there are two main criteria that are required. Number one will be high hydrostatic pressure. You need a high pressure to force the blood plasma out from the glomerulus into the Bowman's capsule space. And number two, we need to have filtration barrier. So how many filtration barrier can we find here? As we know that the filtration barrier is meant to separate the blood in the capillary from the tissue fluid. So let's identify where can we find the blood and where is the Bowman's capsule. So here, this is the capillary. And you can see that this is the renal capsule space, where this is where your filtrate form. So now the barriers will be between these two fluids. So the first layer will be the gaps between the endothelial cells. So you can tell that this is the endothelial cells, because you can see gaps between the cells. Although it's not very obvious, not every part you can see the gap. So we're going to identify these as the gaps. So gaps between the endothelial cells. Then the second layer will be basement membrane, which don't confuse this membrane with your phospholipid bilayer membrane. This is made up of glycoprotein and collagen fiber, where it looks like a network of fibers that act as the main filtration barrier. And the third layer is actually part of the wall of the Bowman's capsule, where the cells of the Bowman's capsules are actually modified with this finger-like projection known as foot process, forming a cell known as podocyte. So this podocyte is a cell that actually has foot process, which is the finger-like projection, where between the foot you actually have the gap known as slits. So this acts as a passage for the filtrate to pass through. So now let's look at how the filtrate actually is being formed. So number one, we're going to see that the plasma will be forced through the gap between the endothelial cells. As they pass through the basement membrane, they will glide through the slits So take note, it must go in between the foot and go in between the slits and over the cells into the Bowman's capsule space. Let's look at another direction. So assuming that there's a gap here, then it will pass through the slits and then they can go into the renal capsule space. So in the diagram, you have to identify where is the gap between the endothelial cells. Then it will pass through the gap and the second layer, the basement membrane, and the third layer, the slits, before it enters the renal capsule space, forming the glomerular filtrate. So what are the substances that you can find in the glomerular filtrate? So in the blood, we know that there are things like glucose, amino acid, mineral ions, water, and urea. And we have cells like red blood cell, we have white blood cell. So what are the molecules that can be forced through? So we know that small and water-soluble substances such as glucose can pass through, amino acid can pass through, ions can, water can, urea can. Except for who? Large plasma protein cannot pass through. As for cells, red blood cell cannot pass through, but white blood cell can pass through. That means in situation where there's kidney infection, the antibody will be produced, antibody can pass through, and your lymphocytes can actually pass through to fight the infection. Hope this question clears your doubt about ultrafiltration.
That's all for today's video. If you're interested in more genuine sharing by other geniuses, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to turn on the notification bell, ding dong. Also, if you're struggling with one or two past year questions and the mark scheme just doesn't seem to help, Genie has got you covered. Feel free to let us know what question it is by filling in the Google form linked in the description below. GenieUs Hub will get genius teachers to fulfill your request for the solution. Genie will see you next time. Bye-bye.